And finally, we have our secret guest panelist, Lawrence. He's been a seasoned professional in digital transformation, which is really relevant in terms of what's happening in the Web3 space. So please help me in giving a warm welcome to our panelists, our expert panel tonight. All right, so I'm going to start with Michael. Michael, with your many years in placing in education, the education sector, placing Asian students in Western universities, you've seen the Asian as well as Western perspectives on education, before the blockchain and now with blockchain. So what's your observation in terms of what's not working well in education and how could blockchain help to improve that?
Yeah, so I'm a bit of a super nerd for stats when it comes to this type of thing. So right now, I'm Australian, so I come from an Australian perspective. Right now, it's less than 25% of the workforce in Australia actually has a bachelor's degree. So that's pretty low compared to most countries. I think it's sitting at about 23%, and it's less than 49% of the Australian workforce has a diploma or higher. So nearly half the workforce doesn't have a formal education, and yet Australia constantly ranks as having one of the highest wage incomes in the world, and yet formal education is declining. But when you consider by Eastern standard, your diploma or your qualification is still very, very, very leaned upon when it comes to your profession. And so if the East is to go the way of the West, then I could see that education and formal education will decline. However, that doesn't mean that it's not required. So the way that the blockchain works is what it does is it helps to assist people to be able to use education in a way that's more relevant to their profession. So even now, I have a degree, and I think that I'd say a lot of people who do have some sort of formal qualification, I bet don't actually use it in their profession. Like, how many people do you know that have a degree or a bachelor's degree that don't actually work in what it is that they studied? I'd say it would be pretty high.
It's pretty high, yeah.
It's pretty high. And so why are we spending all of this money on education that we don't use? So the blockchain will be able to break up education units and be able to apply it in a better way for people's professions.
All right, so you mean basically creating your own curriculum, like building up your own certification based on what you really care about and what you're going to apply in the workplace?
Well, traditionally the model has been where you get accepted into a university. The university is the gatekeeper of that qualification. You've got to study unit by unit by unit, and then after a set period of time, they'll give you a certificate to say that, yeah, okay, they will call you one of their graduates. But when you were to put all of those courses onto a blockchain, you might study one particular unit from one institution, and then you might be, okay, I'm good now, I can work in my profession, and then think, okay, no, I need some accounting training, and so you could study a particular unit from an accounting school somewhere else in the world. So I think as business models adapt, educational institutions will also need to adapt. And as we adapt and as we adapt as a workforce, most students now that are in high school, their future job doesn't exist yet. It hasn't been invented. And so as technology continues to progress, we can't be teaching students today for jobs that don't exist. And so universities and educational institutions will be able to put their content on the blockchain and allow people from all over the world to be able to access the training that they need, rather than trying to preemptively think, I think that I might want to be a lawyer, or I think that I might want to be an architect, and spending all of this money on something that they then realize they don't like.
Thank you, Michael. Arthur, question to you. So I know, Arthur, that you prefer a hands-on, interactive, experiential learning, compared to passive, traditional methods. And I know you're building a metaverse of coaches and mentors. So I want to ask you, what does the future of education look like, from your point of view?
Well, okay, so first of all, let's look at the past of education. Before there were universities, before with all this stuff, okay, how did people learn? They learned through stories. Okay, they would create stories, they would educate morals and ethics through stories. They would basically, stories were the foundation of education. And ultimately, that's where we're going again. See, if you watch a video, you get content, you get knowledge, maybe you get a little bit of fun, but ultimately, if you're inside of a story, which is what the metaverse now allows us to do, it allows us to interact with a real problem and actually solve that problem and even get help from other people or AIs within that system to solve that problem. And that essentially is what we're doing with the AI-assisted enterprise level training and development metaverse.
That's amazing. And in that sort of storytelling, like you're a character in that story as you learn. Would that also help in terms of learning through failure? Because in that space, it's a sandbox, so you can try things out.
But here's the best part, right? Because there's a lot of people out there that really are not really that confident, when it comes, maybe they go to some leadership course or something like that, and they're like, wow, I'm so excited. But then when it comes to actually talking to real people and applying it, maybe they're not so sure, maybe they're not so confident. So in the metaverse, they get to practice and succeed before they actually get to try it in the real world, which means now they already see, because they've already succeeded, that means they get to basically do something that they have more confidence because they've already done it.
Amazing, thank you. That's a good segue to Gil, actually. Gil, you're an expert in corporate communications, networking, and we've all seen your presence here at this conference. My question is, with this new focus on virtual meetings and communication, is that going to decrease the ability for us to build trust and really strong relationships? And if so, what new skills do we need to learn to adapt in this virtual networking space?
So that's a really important question for a lot of people to ask themselves. How has, for example, Zoom changed the way you manage communication within your team? A lot of people, just adapted in Zoom into their company. They had no choice. COVID came. You can't have meetings face to face. You got to bring Zoom in. And a lot of people joined Zoom with their camera off. A lot of people would join Zoom with a window behind them so you could see them all in black. No one actually taught them about the culture of virtual meetings. It's the same thing when Facebook came in. Has anyone ever been to a training on how to adopt Facebook into our lives? It doesn't exist. No one has done that for our kids either, which is awful, which is why a lot of people join social media and then they escape it, which is bad, which is why some people join social media and it overwhelms them. It takes over their life. So I think that there is a roadmap ahead of us on how do we, first of all, teach people to network online? How do we get people to build relationships online? What does it mean to actually build a community online where you get people to join, turn their cameras on, you allow each person to speak a little bit, you do breakout sessions. How many people here are using Zoom? Come on, okay. Hold on, keep your hands up. How many of you regularly use breakout sessions within your team? Look at that, you all put your hands down. Why? That's the whole idea of breakout sessions on Zoom. When you bring your team, you can tell guys, okay, I'm going to give everyone 10 minutes right now. I'm going to break you guys into teams, discuss these things, come back together, and let's work through it. This is how you build trust. Because when we meet face to face, there is a way to connect with someone. You could see body language on people. Now I could see your body language. You could see our body language. Body language is a massive part of communication. It's how we build trust. On Zoom, if I got my camera off, I'm already cutting out 95% of communication because you can only hear my voice. If I got my camera on, but it's a really bad video, I got a window behind me, bad lighting, I'm cutting out, 75% of communication because you can hear my voice and see a bad picture. And unless I've been given some kind of a corporate culture, hey, we're here to actually build a team. So when you show up on Zoom, when you show up in the metaverse, when you're showing up virtually and you're looking to learn from each other, because it is about education, we can learn from each other. In order for me to learn from you, I got to trust you. So if I see you and I feel you and I trust you, I'm more willing to learn from you. So it's extremely important, I feel, that when we're out there and we're sharing with our teams, with our family, even for ourselves, to go out there and learn whatever it is that you're learning, whether you're learning outline from someone like, Arthur from one of his courses, or whether you're on Singularity University or on Mind Valley. I don't believe in universities myself. You said, I think everyone has a degree. I don't have a degree. I failed out of 3 high schools, never went to university, but I've been a professor at 7 different universities around the world for 5 years, a visiting professor. And for me, it came down to building my trust with them by being there either virtually with my video so they could see me and feel me, or at least being there full online, offline with them. And I think it's really important that we give them the education on how do we build that trust through just showing up.
Amazing. Thank you, Gil. Before I ask the next question, I'd like to make an addition to this panel with a local flavor. So Kennedy, I see you in the audience. Would you like to join our panel? Because I'd love to ask you some questions, because Kennedy is actually head of Crypto Sekolah, which is a crypto education school. So we're going to add a chair so we can get some local perspectives on this topic. Let's give Kennedy a warm welcome. So firstly, Lawrence, digital transformation is something you've done for many years. In terms of digital transformation in the workplace and how that affects career training, I guess. How do you see Web3? Is Web3 any different to the previous generations, previous versions of digital transformation in the workplace?
First of all, thank you for letting me, jump on the panel, because education and leading edge technology, how it impacts that has been my passion for many years. In some ways, there's a lot of similarities, right? Most big companies, last 10 years, they've been trying to do digital transformation. And the biggest challenge is all up here. It's not the technology, it's the mindset. It's the fear that robots are going to take our jobs, AI is going to take over the world. And a lot of companies are like, phew, digital transformation, we're going to be done. No, technology is going even faster. And now there's this Web3 thing. So increasingly, it's about helping leaders in companies just get curious about this blockchain, this Web3, this metaversey thingy, and starting to explore it and play with it. And some of the things Arthur was just talking about. I'm talking with an Asian bank at the moment, large national bank in the country. And their challenge is, they want to be one of the top 10 banks across Southeast Asia. But how do you get 10,000 employees, some of whom have never left the country, to think like an ASEAN leader, to think at that level? And you can only do it through simulations, through experiential learning, through possibly even creating their own metaverse, where they can try, they can play, they can experiment. So that, I think, is qualitatively different. And I think it's one of the few ways you can actually scale what we used to do face-to-face in a workshop. So to me, that's what's exciting, is the ability to positively impact so many more people on their educational journey into Web3.
All right, very interesting. Thank you, Lawrence. Kennedy, question
Hello.
to you. Hi. So Kennedy, born, raised, educated in Indonesia, and now you have Sekolah Crypto, and target audience is mainly 18 to 30-year-old Indonesians, right?
That's true.
So which areas of knowledge or skills in Web3 and blockchain is most in demand for that demographic?
Okay, so actually in the main, we can approach this from 2 angles. First of all, what do people think they want, and what do people actually lack, right? For the landscape in Indonesia, I'm pretty sure I can say that our understanding of crypto is still pretty green, pretty young. So I'm going back to the very basics again. There's a lot of projects all over the world that are leading to new technologies. They are building the metaverse and stuff. But for Indonesians, we're still not ready for that yet. So a lot of us still have the mindset barrier regarding mindset about what that Lawrence mentioned. So we can get a lot of skills, but if you don't really have the right mindset, you're using your skills for wrong things, right? So let's say most of us right now, Indonesians, our main concern about crypto is just trading, investing, DeFi and stuff. And because of the lack of understanding as well, a lot of people has been using crypto as a medium for scams. So it's very detrimental, and we lack proper sources of education, proper vetting, or curating of projects. So it's pretty hard to manage stuff. I'd like for us to understand crypto better and contribute to blockchain technology better, but we're not ready for that yet. We still have to start from scratch, build a proper foundation before we're ready.
Great. Thanks, Kennedy.
Adrian, may I build on that?
Sure.
Because my other passion project is financial literacy. And we've been working on projects in financial literacy here in Indonesia and also in the Philippines. And just using a micro-learning platform, points, gamification, and almost a learn-to-earn type of methodology. But people can take essentially the credits and use them within the business ecosystem as micro-entrepreneurs. Something a general manager of a large organization here in Indonesia said to me was very relevant to what Kennedy was talking about, and I think Michael also what you do. He's like, I am scared. I am petrified. We know most of our employees are doing trading and they don't know what they're doing. They don't understand futures and options and shorts and longs and now they're all getting into crypto. He's like, it doesn't matter how much how good an employer we are, how good our managers are, what our employee engagement is like. We know our employees are getting themselves into financial trouble. If we can do anything to help improve their financial literacy, this can make a big difference. So I think there's a massive onus on all of us in the blockchain Web3 world. If we can impact people on financial literacy, but as well as Web3 literacy, I think that's when we can start to make a real difference.
Yeah, great. So actually, I'm going to go back to Kennedy. So we're talking about the future. If we're going to talk about the future, then we want to also rewind to school kids.
Yeah.
And you were educated in Indonesia. So my question to you is, what Web3 skills do you think would be relevant and fun for Indonesian school kids to have access to and start learning about?
So from my view, we can't really jump straight to the advanced stuff. So most likely we have to assimilate Web 2 skills and Web 3 skills. So basically Web 2 skills, I mean that skills that practically can be used anywhere. So we use this as a medium to learn stuff about crypto. Let's say financial management. We do have passion for trading because money, people like money, so it's very attractive, right? So people go through that, but through trading and stuff, we can direct that passion to so people can learn about financial literacy, managing their personal finances. Besides that, kids can also they are adults. Let's say they are 18 or 21. They are technically considered adults, but they're still pretty ignorant regarding the world, right? So like we can teach them about governance systems. If they understand the current governance systems, they'll understand the value of DAOs, let's say, or they understand the current monetary systems. They'll understand what we are bringing through DeFi's and stable coins. They can really see the value in that.
All right, amazing. Did you want to
Can I add on that? Yeah. So our business at Republic Rupiah, we started because of this exact reason, that there was a lot of scams going on in the space. And my co-founder, David, he had identified the fact that there was no good information out there for Indonesians in their native language. And so we started making just basic tutorials and like high quality video tutorials about what is the blockchain, what is DeFi, what is Bitcoin, what is Ethereum. And we just started working our way down CoinGecko, making videos about every single project, explaining it in a simplified way in Indonesian. And before we got to outside the top 10, we had already hit 20,000 subscribers and 50,000 views on videos. So there was this huge need and desire in the market, and it just got gobbled up. And so I think now blockchain has been mostly around financial products, but as the adoption rolls out more, and we just had a panel earlier on the gamification and GameFi, as you get high school students and you get younger students who start using blockchain through games and NFTs and even through learning through education platforms, you watch the literacy around the technology increase, and hopefully it's not just around financial products that bring people into the space.
Yeah, amazing. So, got a follow-up question and then an open question to all the panelists. So, in that work that Republic Rupiah did to provide Indonesian content, was it purely a language translation service, or did you have to change how things are explained for the Indonesian audience?
Yes, we did it really simply, where David, who's our presenter, my co-founder, he was not on any of the videos. He was only voiceover, and we made really high quality animations to explain like what a blockchain is. And for anyone who doesn't know what a blockchain is, it sounds really complicated, but it's just a network of computers. And so we used animation to be able to explain that. And so it was, we don't talk about trading. We don't talk about price prediction. We don't talk about charts. We just talk about the fundamental background behind the technology. And then when we rolled out to other projects talking about things like Ethereum, we would explain what the technology of it was, not the price of it will be this by this date. So this is what the technology does in a really visual way that he would just voice over the visual. And yeah, that was just gobbled up straight away.
Amazing, cool. So I think we're running out of time, but we have time for one more question. So, it's an open question. So my question is, now we've heard the different perspectives, I'd like to hear from each of you, what realistic, tangible, and immediate steps do you think Indonesian educators and or industry can take to prepare for the future economy in terms of Web3 and blockchain?
I mean, one of the key things, and it's been mentioned across multiple things, is actually one of the simplest, which is gamification. See, gamification is not about playing games. It's not necessarily where you have to have animated characters or anything like that. What people don't understand about gamification is that if you have an objective, any progress towards that objective can be gamified. And by creating some themes and by changing the outcomes and having problems that come up in order to create barriers and little things like that, all of that ultimately supports more fun and more interactivity within the whole gamified process. So you can actually have a workforce and have people do boring work and gamify the work process, and then people will suddenly change their perspective about the same boring work, and it'll be fun, and they'll actually do better at it. And you can do the same thing within a blockchain or anything, but the main thing is going to be related to the psychology of gamification. And people still misunderstand that by saying, oh, it's a game. It's not a game. It doesn't have to be a game. Performance measurement with a few little elements added in can make a huge impact for education.
I'd love to add to that, as I'm a big believer in gamification. I'm a big believer in bringing it into the event space. And because our background is, we've hosted more than 1,000 events around the world, and we've done a lot of them in Indonesia, mostly in Bali. What I believe is necessary, and those of you who are listening, you could just take some very, very simple steps and start creating some small micro events within your communities, within your teams, even within the schools. So all 3 of my kids are in a local school in Bali. And what we've done is we've created a parent community. So we actually brought the parents together to saying, hey, our kids are in school. Why don't we start doing something 2-3 times a month for the parents? And what we're doing for the parents is not just about, hey, how to become better parents, but what do we need to know that we don't already know? And 3 of the parents are super active people in Web3 and Metaverse and crypto, NFTs, and they started sharing that themselves. So I believe what's really good is to actually step into that sharing economy that, we're all in already, and start looking around you and see who's already in my community that's sharing, and can we co-host some sort of a small event? And no need to do a big event like this. Host a small dinner for 20 people at your house. Host it at a small local restaurant. Bring people together that are maybe outside of your community that could share. So we're constantly hosting all these dinners, and we always have like a guest expert. And very easy, you can connect with the favorites team and say, hey guys, favorites guys, we're hosting a dinner at our place. Can you guys help us find an expert from your panels that would actually show up to our place? So I think the answers are around you. What I think is necessary is for you out there and your friends and your families to find the motivation to take some steps and say, hey, this is coming in whether we like it or not. If our kids don't know about crypto, they're going to be poor. If our kids don't know anything about Web3, they won't know how to use computers in the future. They need to know what's going on in order for them to play with it. With my kids are young kids, and I'm teaching them that money doesn't have to be paper money. And they already understand that money could be in your phone. They understand that digital money is the future. And my kids are young, 2, 4, and 6-year-old. And my 6-year-old says, no, daddy, I don't want paper money. Can you put money in my digital account? And she doesn't even understand what it means. But she knows that it is a part of the future because we're talking about it. So consider having micro events. Consider to invite some of these experts around. Consider to sign your kids up to, Republic Rupiah. Micro events, get the message out there, please.
All right. I want to wrap up with local perspective. So back to Kennedy. Any, from your point of view, tangible, immediate steps that educators and industry can take?
So I like to add, continuing from gamification, events, and communities, the principle is the same, like it's engagement. So my approach to engagement is just, it's something simple, not necessarily easy, but simple. It's a very good storytelling because I've lived in Indonesia for quite a while, and people really are not technical here. They don't really like to read technical documentations or very stiff rules. So people really trust word of mouth. It's really prevalent here. So a good storytelling, I think, is very important. And continuing from that, then we're gonna need authority figures like either government-backed institutions or very strong brands that people can trust, that they can rely on. That way, we can really accelerate the education for crypto in Indonesia.
Amazing. Thank you very much, panelists. Please help me to thank the panelists for their time. Thank you very much.